This flyer you see here took me a few words and a few minutes. No Canva, no Photoshop, no hunting for a template that almost fits. And that flyer came out of this, a text box that's actually sitting on your computer, free to use right now. By the end of this video, that same box is drafting your customer emails, reading your spreadsheets, and building the things you can actually hand off to a client. Let's get into it. Claude is an AI assistant built by a company called Anthropic. You talk to it the same way you talk to an employee. You tell it what you need and it responds. Claude runs right in your browser at claude.ai. There's a free plan to get started, and everything you're about to see works whether you never touched AI before or you've been messing around with AI for years. And setup is pretty straightforward. If you go over to claude.ai, you'll land on this login screen. You can log in with your Google account or you can log in with your email. It takes a couple of minutes. All right, so once you log in, you should see this page here, and I got a fresh new account here. And so with Claude over here on the left, you'll see, well, first off, I want to just preface and say that sometimes Claude will change up their interface. So if you're watching this in the future, you should be able to still follow along, and most of the items here that are placed should be in the same area. They might look a little different. But anywho, so on the side here, you have a few options here. You have new chat, where you can chat with a new Claude instance. And then right here under here is chats, and this is where all of your chat history will go from your past chats. You have projects, more on that later. And we have artifacts. And then up here we have Claude Code. We won't get into that. Customize, where you can have different skills, different connectors made by Claude. So you can connect your Gmail, your Google Drive, Slack, and do some work with that. And then we also have plugins. Then down here we have design. So if we go back over to new chat, we're back at the home screen. So this is where we're going to spend a lot of time at. So right over here you have the input text box here. This is where you obviously prompt something into Claude. And you have a nice little message here that says coffee and Claude time, which I'm recording this in the morning, so it's give you a morning message, and Claude would change this depending on the time it is in your time zone. So down here in this plus button here, we have a couple of options that we can do to give Claude further context. We can add photos, take a screenshot, add this prompt to our project. We got skills, we can add a connector, we have plugins, and we have web search. Then down here, we have some prompt samples here. So for writing, for improving my writing style. And notice when I hover over it, over here in the input prompt box, you have a sample prompt that Claude gives you to get started, which is really nice and convenient. So you can hover over these and you can see how they change, just different various styles of writing. So I can close that by hitting this X, and then we have options for learning here. We have options for code if you do any coding task. We got life stuff. Then we also have Claude choice. So I'm thinking that some of these are the more common ones when it comes to Claude. Then over here you have the different Claude models. So you may have heard of Sonnet and Fable around the internet. Those are the newest Claude models that recently got released, but you need to upgrade to use Fable 5 and Opus 4.8. So Sonnet 5 is more convenient, seems to be more standard. And you can kind of get an idea of what each model does right here. So Sonnet is more for efficient everyday tasks. Haiku for quick answers. And then we have this effort dial here. So we can crank up the effort if we really want Claude to think about something and really think hard about something. So, and these are for more complex tasks that you would do, but I typically leave it on default unless it's something complex I want Claude to reason with. Do we have more models down here? So the Opus 4.7, Opus 4.6, and Opus 3, you have to upgrade for those, but we do have the Sonnet 4.6 here. Now to the Sonnet 5. Then right over here, we have a mic to speak into it if we don't want to type. So we can hold and record, and we can have a voice mode for Sonnet to speak back to us on the return prompt. And then down here, we can get set up with Claude. So I'll help you to do these at your leisure time if you desire. I would say if you're doing basic stuff, you can just leave everything at the default settings when it comes to the effort and the models. But if you are interested in these higher models here, 4.8 and Fable, if you go down here into the left-hand side where your icon is or your username is, and if you click that and then you go to upgrade plan, this is where you can upgrade your plan if you desire. So right now we're on a free plan, but we can go pro plan or we can go max for $100. Pro plan is $17 yearly, and these are the features that you would get. And then up where this dial for the Pro plan, we can change it to monthly. So you can go through a monthly subscription. So instead of paying, I think it's a little over $100 for the yearly plan, which you'll save 17%. But if you desire to go with the monthly plan, there's that option there for $20. Then you have team and enterprise options here as well. For me personally, I'm currently subscribed to the Claude Pro plan at $20 a month on my other main account. I just find Claude to be such an excellent tool for getting work done quickly and efficiently. However, don't feel pressure to upgrade if you're not ready to upgrade right now. If this is your first time seeing it or your first time in AI, you can get away with the free plan. Consider upgrading when it's convenient for you. So yeah, that's pretty much pricing and plan. So I click on this arrow here on the top left. That'll take me back to the home screen. And pretty much that's the whole tour of the Claude interface. So let's get started on getting Claude to do some work for us. Also, throughout this video lesson, I'm going to be using a fictional small business called Willow & Co. Home Goods. It's a small independently owned home goods shop selling candles, textiles, and gifts. One location and a couple of part-time staff that sell in store and online. Some common mistakes with Claude is treating it like a search engine, like typing 3 words and waiting for something to happen. Instead, talk to it like you're briefing a new hire. When it comes to communicating with AI, context is key. Let's say you got a client who's a week late on an invoice and you need to follow up without sounding like a collections agency. So right here, I'm just telling Claude who I am, who I'm writing to, and what tone I want. So let's give this a run. So I'm gonna hit enter here. And right now it's thinking, pondering, and then notice over here on the left in the recents, we have the recent chat that's recently going on right now. We have in our recent chats the follow-up for overdue invoice. That's the name of the chat. And now over here, we have a full draft in my voice ready to copy and paste into an email. That took about 15 seconds. We can click this button to copy to the response or send it via Gmail if we have a Gmail connector connected to the Claude account. The trick here isn't a tool, it's the prompt. Give it the situation, the goal, the tone, and it fills in the rest. And if it's not quite right or you don't like the way it sounds, you don't have to start over in a new chat. You can just tell it what to change right in the same conversation here. Something like, make it shorter and or less formal. It remembers everything you said so far and will make the adjustments. So now here's where it gets useful for running your business. So what I'm gonna do is start a new chat. So right here on the left, I'm gonna go to new chat. And right here at this plus button underneath the prompt here, you'll see add files and folders. So what I'm gonna do is upload a spreadsheet worth of sales data. It doesn't matter if it's messy or have multiple tabs, Claude will still read it regardless. For this example, I uploaded a sales spreadsheet of the Willow & Co. monthly sales data for June 2026. Now we can ask it a real business question in plain English. Something like, what sold the best? What am I low on? What patterns is it noticing that I've missed while scrolling through the rows myself? Now let's run this and see what output we get. And here's what it returned. This is interesting. I like this really nice visual analysis illustration it has here. And then down here we have best sellers, we have what we're low on, and we have patterns I might have missed. So all of the things that we asked for in great detail here. And then we have a follow-up prompt here that's asking want me to build this into a reorder priority spreadsheet or pull a longer trend if you have prior months to compare against. This is really, really nice, and I can see how this can benefit a small business who wants to understand their numbers and sales. Now, everything so far has been one-off conversations. So the next feature that actually changed how you work in Claude is projects. So what you're gonna do is right over here on the left-hand side, click on projects. And on projects tab, right over here to the right on the top, just click on new project. A window should pop up. Now, a project in Claude is a dedicated workspace where you load stuff. Claude should always know about your brand, your voice, your policy, your pricing, your FAQs one at a time, not every single conversation you start. All right, so for this example, in the create a project, in this input here where it says, what are you working on? I put customer support. And below that input, what you're trying to achieve, I just put customer support for Willow & Co. Home Goods. Again, that's a fictional business that I've been using throughout this lesson. So right here on this button right here, you'll see create project. Click on that. And here's the home screen for the projects area of Claude. So you should land on the screen after you create a project. And we can go back here if you click on this all projects button. This will list all of the projects, and you can search for any projects in case you created more than one project. Maybe you create 10 or 20 and you want to search for a specific project. You can do that here. And then you can also sort by last updated. And then obviously you can create a new project here. But I'm going to go back to customer support here. So if I click on that, it brings me back to this customer support project. And so here we can add more detailed instructions to tailor it even further, like some maybe list of information or a little bit more detail on how we want it to operate or function. And so you can cancel that, and then you can also save instructions here. And then in here, we can add files. So we can add any type of file, PDFs, slideshows, spreadsheets, documents, just about any file that is related to your business, and it will use that in every chat. And then down here, once you start chatting with it, you're going to see a list of different chats for this particular project. I'm dropping in my return policy and a short doc on how I want customer replies to sound. Every conversation I start inside of this project from now on, it knows my context, and I'm not re-explaining my business every time. For this example, in the prompt here of this project, I put draft a reply to this customer's email. And it's basically a customer who received a mirror and it was cracked during arrival. I want to draft up a response, so we're going to give this a run and see what we get back. You see this? I didn't say a word about tone or policy here, and it nailed both because it's reading from what the files I loaded into the project. This is how you go from cool AI toy to something that's actually part of your daily operations. Now, everything up to this point has been Claude answering you in text. But what if I told you it can also build the thing for you? Not just describe it, but build it. Check this out. I'm going to ask for something that a lot of small businesses need consistently. A simple one-page flyer for a promotion. I'll give it the offer, the dates, and my brand colors. And now checking front-end design skill flyer for creation guide. So it's asking the skills, prepping the work directory. And now it's beginning to create a flyer in a single HTML file. And here's our flyer, right? Right over here on the right, we have our flyer ready to go. And obviously we can change this up if we want to. So we can do some follow-up prompts in the same chat to change up some things, maybe to make this a little bit smaller or bigger, change the colors, change the themes. But for the Willow & Co. company, I think this looks pretty solid, so I'm going to keep this. Before we wrap up, 5 more ways small business owners can use Claude everyday rapid fire style. Here we go. 1. Turn a rough voice memo or meeting notes into a clean, actionable list. 2. Write a week of social media captions from one blog post. 3. Get a plain English summary of a contract before you sign it. 4. Draft a job posting from a rough list of responsibilities. 5. Turn a spreadsheet of expense into a simple summary that you can actually read. None of these took more than 3 minutes. That's the pattern. Hand off the first draft, keep your judgment for the final call. So to recap here, start a conversation like you're briefing a new hire. Upload your files instead of digging through them by hand. Build a project so Claude already knows your business before you ask anything. Create a flyer file when you need an actual deliverable, not just text. And once you're comfortable, there's basically no routine or business writing review task you can't hand off, at least for the first draft. None of this will replace the final call. It just clears out the busy work standing between you and it. If you want Claude working inside your actual desktop, not just the browser tab, that's next. I'm putting together a full walkthrough of Claude Desktop, including a small business plugin that goes even further than what you saw today. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Drop a comment with the task you're most excited to hand off. I read everyone, and it might end up in the next video. So that's Claude. Start to finish, write, build, scale. We'll see you at the next one.